Hi everyone, it's all about her territory and I'm back again with another video. In today's topic, I want to talk about, it's kind of like a story time about how I was always easily influenced, or what we would call peer pressured, easily to jump into things, and then how the enemy used that back on me, you know. Let's get one thing clear. I am older, I'm wiser, so game can't be ran on me as easily as it did when I was younger. When you're young, you tend to make foolish decisions. And now that I'm older and wiser, I now understand what things not to do. I can say that I'm so happy that with life, everyone will make mistakes. So I'm happy the fact that we can be redeemed by understanding what's wrong. Now, a lot of times why we make bad decisions is out of two things. It could be more reasons, but the two that I'm going to discuss is just basically not being brought up right within a home, whether it's one parent or two parent home. And then another thing is on doing it on your own will, you know. You might have been raised right and you still chose to go your own way. So I'm just very grateful and glad that God sees us as new, regardless of what our past looks like. So that's just like a fulfilling thing inside of my soul. I thank God for being my redeemer and making me white as snow, you know. And as people, we make mistakes growing up, and as we keep growing up in age and going ahead in life, but with wisdom comes understanding, you know. So like they used to say, if you know better, you do better. So overall, I refuse to make the same mistakes that I made when I was younger. Now, granted, I grew up all over the place, so I was never in a place of love. So, and it shouldn't justify a reason why you do certain things, because I've been wrong to people and people have wronged me. And overall, when I was younger, I used to just make stupid decisions because of being hurt. The lack of love, I can honestly say, caused me to be rebellious, you know, and it didn't do me any good. As a teenager, I grew up very promiscuous because of things that happened to me and what I saw and what I was pressured into, you know. So I believe how I understood my life, being that I'm a Christian and going forward in my life with God and Jesus Christ as my Savior, I look back and saw like, man, the devil really had a veil over my eyes, not understanding how he was trying to open up a portal to screw my whole life up, you know. Thank God for grace and mercy for saving me. I did certain drugs because others were doing it, you know. Taking pills, smoking weed, you know, at a young age. And it's like, wow, I thank God for just the redemption and me learning from my mistakes. And the devil be so mad because you ain't gonna let your children go out like that, you know. I grew up in a town where everybody was lost, and my whole family, wasn't nobody following Christ, you know. So I thank God that the veil, as I was saying, I thank God for the veil being off of my eyes and understanding that what I thought was fun was never fun. It was a road to hell, you know. And it wasn't clean living, you know, it wasn't righteous living. But I have a maybe I can break this up in different parts, but I have just a quick little story, how the enemy will open up portals in your life and really try to cancel you out of the will of God, you know? So a way that I was easily influenced was when I was younger. I was a teen, you know, a young girl, you know. I would be easily influenced by men because, like I said, with the lack of love that I had in my life, I tend to run to guys, you know, back then. So I remember I was probably like, I want to say about 18 or 19. I was working graveyard shift at this job. Well, IHOP. I'm just going to say IHOP. It was IHOP at the time. I was working late night and was getting off work. Me and my homegirl at the time, we were crossing the street. And at that time, I was taking public transit, you know. And there was this guy. He was very handsome dude, like, and never seen him in my life. And on this particular night, I see this story as being very mysterious. And he was sitting across on a car. I don't know what kind of car it was. And he was sitting there, never seen him before. And I believe he said he was waiting on someone. I can't really remember what it was, but he was sitting on that car. And somehow he was able to approach me. And he pretty much asked me for my number. Okay, and then I ended up giving it to him, you know, easily influenced. So after I gave him my phone number, I hit his weed, you know. And at this time, this is the era where people were putting all kind of stuff and lacing it and stuff, and he's smoking it fine. My homegirl at the time was smoking it fine. And I was a person that smoked weed very frequent. At this time, I preferred to smoke versus drinking. And so I thought nothing of it. And as many years as I was smoking, since I was a teenager up until like 19 years old, until 20 years old, this was the very first time that I've ever had a bad experience with this drug, you know? Not even pills made me react the way that I did to this weed. So after I hit his blunt or whatever, got on the bus. Me and my friend at the time, we were on the bus, headed home, late night. This is late night. Well, actually graveyard shift, early morning. And I could say it was probably about almost 6 o'clock when the first bus was approaching, but it was still late night out. And like I said, I hit this guy that I never met weed before. And when I hit it and got on the bus, it's like I was seeing things. Every time the bus would move, I felt fine. It was like a sense of paranoia. And then I was telling my friend, I said, I'm tripping. I said, this doesn't feel right, you know? And she was like, just chill. And I was like, I gotta get off this bus. Mind you, it's late. We trying to go home. And, you know, at that time, she was good to me, getting off the bus with me. She got off the bus with me, and she was like, are you straight? I said, no, I'm tripping. I said, it feels like I want to die or take off all my clothes. Instantly, I thought, like, dang, I'm going to die tonight. That's all I could think about. I'm going to die. And it was just like I gave up right then. And I was still very high, and it was just really, really attacking me. It was attacking my body to where I was like, almost like hyperventilating, and I was tripping in my mind. So she was like, girl, you're going to get your behind on this next bus that come at like 7 o'clock because we need to get home. And I was like, all right. And I was to a point of almost having tears because the way I was feeling was not me. You know, whatever was in that blunt was a whole different element going on in my body. Demonic force. And it's only something that someone who has experienced this could understand. And I don't know if any other person has seen videos, or if you have seen videos that have happened to certain people. Like there's certain videos on the internet where people have taken certain drugs and they're literally fighting what people can't see because it's spiritual. It's going on within the person, like something has entered their body, And these people are fighting inside of their minds and can't get out. They're stuck knocking over stuff and can't fight, and people think they're going crazy. Yeah, they're going crazy, but not in the sense of like mental. It's not mental, it's a spiritual fight that they're trying to get out of. They're like stuck in a place, and I felt exactly like that. So when I see certain videos like that, it just takes me back to how God saved me, because a lot of people don't come back from that, And anyway, got back on the bus around like 7 o'clock, and the paranoia was still there. So as I'm heading home on the bus, I was still experiencing this paranoia. It was rough. It was like I wanted to freak out, but it could only be God. The little bit of God that I didn't even know of was still around me, or still there to help me along the way so that I wouldn't die. And I walked home. It's still dark outside, and I literally went home and crashed, like sleep. And obedience is key to a lot of this, what I'm talking about, because not only did I do this and make it out, I believe I did this like one more time, or once or twice more. And it seems like every time I went to hit a blunt on 2 more different occasions, it never felt right anymore. Granted, these last 2 times that I hit the blunt, being disobedient to how God saved me without knowing God yet, but I hit the blunt 2 more times on 2 different occasions. I just did not feel right. It never felt the same. It felt like that same paranoia was trying to come up. And it's like so crazy how what the enemy will try to use to take you out, it's a way for you to come to Jesus. All along, that thing that I got into was to turn my whole life around. That was a stepping stone for me to start walking towards Christ. As years went by, little by little, gradually things started falling off of me. The way I talked, the way I dressed, and the things I wouldn't do anymore because of experiences that would lead me to Christ. I just want to go back just a second, and sorry if I'm jumping around, but I'm just trying to make a connection. So after all that happened, after that night that I did make it home by God's grace, I never heard from the guy again. Never again. So it's like me seeing this person that one time could have changed my whole life, and I know for a fact the devil was sent to use him to take me out because of who God is calling me to be for my future. It's amazing how our stories could, as people, can relate. Those that are in the body of Christ can really relate on how God has saved us when we could have been dead so long ago. I say all this to say that nothing but God kept me from the time that the enemy opened up portals for my heart to be broken and played with, my mind to be played with, and he used that as a playground to mess with me for years, even into adulthood, until I started realizing the patterns that could lead us to even more heartbreak. I don't want to fall for the pattern no more. You know what I'm saying? If I'm older, that means I should gain wisdom. I'm glad I'm not stuck and lost like I was at some point in time. But just that experience with bad lace weed, that experience, I can definitely say that with a couple more years to pass would bring me to Christ. That experience was the leeway to bring me to Christ. Because eventually we get tired. We get tired of being used, played upon with our minds, our time, etc. So it's like, it gotta be more to life than just thinking we can screw around in the streets and think we ain't gonna pay for it later. It gotta be more than that. That wasn't what brought me to Christ. Not that experience itself, but I can say it was the start of seeing where I started to grow at. And that experience itself, like I said, didn't bring me to Christ per se, but it was the leeway to show me the value of life. I gained to not want to smoke weed anymore. And then I'll probably say 2 years after I was coming into Christ. And it's just when I look back at all that stuff that I went through and took myself through because I was easily influenced, thinking that things were cool and the thing to do. Because the blind leads the blind. I could have been dead in my grave on the way to hell. But God is a true redeemer of life. I'm totally grateful. Grateful. So overall, what kind of love could keep you while you were young? Because when I think about things and I sit back and think about my life, it's wow, people have been in my same shoes with certain experiences and didn't make it. And it's how could I go back? Granted, I'll make mistakes, but I refuse to make the same one over and over. My wisdom comes from Jesus Christ. None other. It was just him. He kept me. He made me wise. He made me understand that it's just more than just being here for a lifetime. But we must learn and grow through him. But I am done with this video. I hope this helped and gave you some insight on how we are so blessed to be in the land of the living. Life is hard, but we're alive and we're walking to where we know we don't want the old, we want the new. We're going into greater things, saved and alive. Be grateful for that. Peace. I show you nothing, baby. You show me love can change that. If I'm on your mind, can't change that. Brand new man's brand new baby. If I show you love can change that. You show me nothing, baby.